We are activating your unique self-discovery one show at a time. The Orchard of Wisdom Self-Discovery podcasts are at your fingertips, just waiting to inspire and invite you in discovering just how awesome you really are and how to navigate through life in joy, enrichment, personal abundance, in mind, body, spirit, heart, and soul. All the people we bring you are here to serve you on your journey of life. Do enjoy our next show. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Building Your Business right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy. My wonderful guest all the way from Texas is Derrick Kinney. We're going to be talking about good money today. Now, a lot of people have a different relationship with money. Money can be deemed to be evil, but no, money itself is just simply that, money. It's transactional. And how we use the money is really where we look at, we're labeling it. He says the good money revolution, how to make more money and do more good. You see, money doing good. In the good money revolution, you'll learn how to make more money, live the life you deserve, and change the world. Derrick says that the fresh financial voice to guide you there. This book gives you a shame-free, simple success plan for your money without cutting out your favorite latte. You have a debt. You've worked hard to pay it down. Now you wonder what's next. As you worry about the future, you can't afford to get it wrong, and you need a financial plan that fits your unique goals and dreams. And you want to make money and make the world better while you do it. And you don't have the clue of where to start. So he says this. You should have a bigger paycheck, enjoy real financial freedom, and live the life you've always wanted to. After all, isn't that what we're here to do? To live life. If you're not making money you deserve, you're not making the impact on the world you've always wanted to do. So there's a better way to make your money today, and that is what we're here to find out. I really do love the whole balance of make a load of money so you can give it away. That's music to my ears, because I do believe that make as much money as you want, but please seed opportunities for other people along the way, right? Because I think that's good karma as well. So welcome, Derrick. Welcome to the show.
Sarah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be with you and looking forward to this conversation together.
Now, right now we're in a financial crisis in the world. The COVID did
Yeah.
a number on the money, and everybody's unsure of what tomorrow. Wars and more COVID, and jobs have changed direction completely. But also, it's brought out more and more solopreneurs or entrepreneurs or small businesses. It's actually been a creator in many ways as well. But we're still, like throwing all the balls up in the air and hoping to catch them. As far as the money is concerned, you need to put out money if you're a business in order to generate money. Yes, you want to see that opportunity over there, but how do you do it while you're trying to keep yourself alive? And what's the relationship with your money anyway? So I think the relationship with money is kind of the first place we start, isn't it?
It really is. I'll tell you a quick story too, Sarah. There was some Lexus dealerships back in 2009 in the last major recession, and they had a problem. And the problem was they realized that with the economy slowing down, the sales of luxury cars would also slow down precipitously. They knew they weren't going to go out of business, but they needed to recraft and redesign
Yes.
their strategy. What they came up with was, as opposed to relying on people coming to the dealerships to test drive the cars, they came up with a strategy of taking the cars to where affluent people would be. So they took the Lexuses to the tennis courts and the golf courses and the art galleries. And at these events they would go to, inevitably they would talk about, hey, what do you do for a living? Well, I'm a doctor, I'm an attorney, I own my own business, etc. And eventually they would ask the other person, well, what do you do for a living? And they would say, well, I'm a Lexus dealer. I happen to have a Lexus outside. Would you like to test drive one? And we all know that your car is fine until you test drive a new car. And
Yes.
suddenly now your car feels old.
Ah.
And what they realized, which was fascinating, Sarah, was that they actually sold more cars during the recession with this new strategy than they did not in a recession. And so, as I like to say, I've heard there is a recession coming, but I've decided not to participate.
Right, I like
And
that.
with a lot of business owners right now, it's all about rethinking how can you make more money? And more importantly, the individuals listening right now, thinking about money in a brand new way. Out right now is going to your boss, knocking on the door, demanding that 4% raise. And you might get it because they need to retain you.
Mm.
There's the cost to replace you, all those types of things. But it doesn't get you the lasting financial freedom you want. And so, one of the things I talk about in my book, Good Money Revolution, is what are 3 things you can do right now in whatever job you're in to help reduce expenses, increase sales, and grow the business. And if you can come up with an answer to those 3 questions and talk to your boss and have a 30 to 60-day game plan about how those can help the company make more money, we're finding about 90% of people who do this across the country get a raise within about 30 days, much more than 4%.
Mm. One thing I do know from COVID, there's so many people had to pivot. Their businesses, their
Yes.
lifestyles, everything. But for so many people were saying, I was constantly out there catching a plane, going to this meeting, going to that. And then I realized I didn't need to do that. I could be just as present whether it's all on Zoom, and then I can go surfing in between.
Right.
And it's because very often I think what it came into, yes, work hard, yes, generate in your business, but if you don't have the balance of a lifestyle, you are actually depleting your business.
That's
Right,
right.
because you're depleting your business of your energy, of the inspiration, of the creativity, because you're so busy working in your business instead of on your business. And the pivoting right now, I remember somebody said I had 10,000 square feet with all my employees in it. Half of my employees want to stay working from home. That means I can cut my thing down to
Right.
5,000 square feet. So the willingness to look at what you can let go of, what you can pivot, what really isn't necessary, and also what doesn't work right now.
Let me build on what you just said because I think you painted a great picture there that so many business owners are struggling with. I was in my office working a couple years ago on a Saturday morning, went into there to catch up and so forth, and a voice inside me said, "You need to listen to that voicemail that's on the other side of that blinking light." Typically, I would
Mm.
let it go, wait till Monday, but I just knew I needed to press it. When I did, much to my surprise, was the frantic woman's voice of a longtime client. As she said, "Derrick, you've got to call me back right away. They're about to take me to jail."
Oh,
Well, if you can imagine
if you wait
that
until
message,
Monday.
yeah, I couldn't wait till Monday. That would
No.
only get worse. She'd be in prison by then, for goodness sake. So I called her back and I said, "I got your message. I'm in the office. I just happened to hear it. Tell me what's happening." And she said, "Derrick, I got this letter in the mail that I had bounced a check and she received a notice for non-sufficient funds. They were going to charge her for that. And she said, now they're going to send me to jail." And I said, "Okay, time out.
Yeah.
I get the fact that you bounce a check. I've done that myself. We can take care of that, move some money from checking to or
Mm-hmm.
savings to checking. But why do you think they're going to send you to jail?" So she begins to tell me a story that when she was 7 years old,
Mm.
she overheard her dad having a conversation that went like this: "You were in my store recently. I know that you bought some school supplies for your kids, but you wrote a hot check. It bounced, and I'm going to call the cops on you and I'm going to send you to jail." So get this: this 7-year-old girl at
Yes.
the moment thought that if I bounce a check, I go to jail. This woman is now 55 years old, and she's still holding this belief her
Yeah.
entire life
Yeah.
that if I make a mistake, I'm going to get punished. Now, what this did though is I talked her down off the ledge and I said, "Look, you're going to be okay. Come in the office on Monday. Let's talk face to face." And what happened, Sarah, was a transformational story because as we talked through the situation, we moved the money, got her check covered. But what I realized was it was this bad money belief
Yeah.
that had held her back personally, had held her back professionally. She would never take advantage of the investment ideas I gave her as her advisor. And she missed out on tens of thousands of dollars of profit, but also she wasn't making the money that she felt she deserved. And when we realized this bad money belief and unpacked it all, she got a raise of about $25,000 over the next 6 months, got a promotion, and began to live a freer life because she took out the rocks in her backpack that
Mm-hmm.
had been weighing her down based on this false belief. And so some of your listeners right now and viewers may be thinking, wow, it may not be money, but it may be another belief that has held them back, that when they lay their head on the pillow at night, they wonder, what is it that I'm missing? How come other business owners are successful and I'm not? I'm doing the activities, I'm doing all that I need to do, but there's something missing. And so I would just ask people right now that right now, when there is a time of financial crisis, and we've seen this throughout history, when it's the worst possible time to start the business,
Mm.
grow the business, expand the business, has proven years later back in the rearview mirror to have been the best time
Yes.
to do those, because most millionaires are born
Mm-hmm.
in moments like this. It just doesn't feel like a very good birth is what's occurring.
Well, out of, whenever there is a disaster, there is always a need. And the thing is to pivot
Yes,
to the need. What you have been pitching before may not be appropriate at this time. So what can you shift your energies to that is in need right now? And that flexibility it kind of reminds me of my mother and my father. My mother, after the war, wanted to buy houses and do them up and resell them. And she would do
yes,
it where we would live in it and then we would move. So we're constantly moving. But my father said, no, 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 all the houses are going to go back to pre-war prices. So he held her back. She had the
yes,
foresight, right? And he obviously won because there was, 50s and 60s where, the men won everything. But that kind of thinking is where we're at right now. We can take advantage of what is the need right now. The thing is paying attention to what the need is.
right.
And what in your own business that you need to go, that is the rocks, my belief, the way I've been looking at things. The old thing, well, it's always been done this way. Throw that out right away, right?
Right, right.
There are certain rules and traditions that are strong foundational things to springboard from. Don't mess with the foundation. But you've got to be willing to be flexible in the hurricane. Otherwise, you're just simply going to be blown away.
Yeah, I love that. And, when you talk about the foundation, there's a lot of people that have hairline fractures in their foundation
Mm-hmm.
and they don't know it. They have done well in a soaring economy. It sort of covers up a lot of operational inefficiencies and problems. But when we see a crisis and the pressure really goes down on that foundation, it reveals cracks. And let
Yeah.
me give your listeners a couple of ideas here, because I'll tell you a story. I had a client, a couple come in the office recently, and they were talking about and really lamenting the problem of how could they compete against these big box retailers,
Mm.
Amazon and Walmart and all the big behemoth companies, because they could beat them on price, convenience, speed. There was almost no compelling argument as to why the local shop owner could even stay in business. And I said, let me ask you this. If you wanted to make a decision right now, who could come to a quicker solution? You both or Amazon? And they got a smile on their face and they said, well, we could. And I said, that's
Yeah.
exactly the competitive advantage that you and other small business owners have right now, is that you can pivot. And so what that looks like is, look, what can you do to clearly define the problem that you solve for your very best customers? Right now, Sarah, and you tell me if you agree or disagree with this, but my philosophy is, and my contention is, that if you're a CPA, if you're a financial advisor, an attorney, a realtor, a coffee shop owner, anything where there's a number of you in your local area where people can pick from any of you, if you don't clearly stand out as clearly the go-to person, you are going to get run over,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to compare you on price. They're going to compare you on things where you're a commodity. What I want to tell people is you've got to differentiate yourself and decommoditize yourself. And the best way to do that is not to talk about your features and your benefits. People know that you've got features and benefits, and they know that all of those will probably be good for them. But people walk into your store, they buy your product or service because they have a problem that they want to solve, and they believe that you or your product or service can help them solve their problem and live a better life. And if you can define what that problem is and clearly articulate it and talk about how you provide the solution, even in difficult economic times, which I believe we're just seeing the very front end of,
Yes.
you will stand out because, as you talked about, in times of economic uncertainty or crunchiness, as I call it,
Mhm.
there's so many more problems that are created. And that's why the entrepreneur has this moment where they can look and they can say, my gosh, do I need to just hunker down? Do I need to get a job? Do I need to sell my business? Or do I need to double down on myself and my business right now and begin attacking these new problems, because those new problems can literally be the springboard
Mhm.
to you making really, really good money. And as I like to tie it in, as I talk about in my book, Good Money Revolution, how do you then make more money to do more good? And one thing that we know is if you can let people know your generosity purpose, which is a cause that you care deeply about. It might be, look, I have a passion for young people that need their first semester of college paid for to give them a leg up and get them going. Or
Mhm.
I want to help provide resources for the homeless, or to provide clean water, or provide whatever the cause is that really drives you, that you're passionate about. If you can let people know in your business that, look, a portion of all of our proceeds is going to go to help solve this and make our
Mhm.
local community better. Research tells us
Yes.
people will pay more
Yep.
for your product or service, but also it's stickier. It's not just
Yeah.
I'm buying a computer because I can buy that from anybody, but they're buying a computer with a cause that makes them feel better. And people, we know this, and this is so funny to say this, but people spend more on painkillers than on vitamins.
I know.
And so if you can be the painkiller, if you can be the
Yeah.
solution to their problem, they will spend their hard-earned money with you.
I've got two words: customer service.
Yes, yes.
Now, yeah, I buy from Amazon something generic I don't need customer service for. But if I walk into a store and you're finding this in the Walmarts, things like this, you go in because I need it now. Oh no, you have to get it online. It irritates the hell out of me, right?
All
But
right.
when you go into a store and they go, okay, I don't have that right now, but it's at the warehouse. I will get it to you by such and such, right? Customer service. But what we've stopped doing, what a lot of businesses have stopped doing, is listening to the customer.
Yes.
They think it's just supply, supply, supply the demand, supply the demand. You're trying to get, put your complaint online. We'll get back to you, maybe, maybe not. Or you'll get a bot come back to you. And
Right.
this is what's pissing people off. They want customer service. When something's not working, or they're looking for something, or they're going into a store and say, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I think I need this. They want customer service. They want to be treated like a person. They want their needs to be treated one-on-one. They don't want to be another number in a series of bots. And I
Right.
think customer service in any business is your hook, it's your welcome mat, and it's what's going to bring people back to you time and time again because you've given them the time of day.
Well, and one of the things that we know is that when people feel validated
Yeah.
and listened to,
Hmm.
even if there's a
And
problem
valued.
that comes up and valued, they will continue working with you. I'll tell you another quick story. When I had my financial planning business before I sold it about 2 years ago to go full on with my good money message, if we would invest money with clients, there was always complexities of filling out paperwork and forms, and occasionally a trade might not get made. And what that meant is, let's say that Sarah, you called up and said, hey, Derrick, I want you to buy $10,000 of Coca-Cola. And then you assume that that was made, and we made the sale and so forth and the purchase. But occasionally, with the volume that we would do, and this was very, very rare, but occasionally that wouldn't get done. And let's say that that day, Coca-Cola went up $1,000.
Hmm.
Well, you may put in 10, you made $1,000, and then you realized, oh my gosh. And so what we would do, some people would go back to the client and say, look, sorry, it's really your fault, not taking responsibility at all, and we'll get it tomorrow, no problem. What I would always do, and this is where it cost me money, is I would say, you know what, Sarah, that was completely, even though I had a large team, it wasn't me directly, but
Yeah.
if a team makes the mistake, it's the same as Derrick making the mistake.
Yeah.
It's total ownership. And so I said, look, we'll make this up to you. We'll make the trade back. I will personally cover it for $1,000. That way you get the benefit of that. And customers loved it.
Hmm.
Loved the fact that a problem occurred, And we could have chosen one of two paths. We could have just said, nope, that's not our fault, just the customer, too bad for them. Or we owned it and we
Yes.
actually felt worse about it than you did,
Mm-hmm.
which what that does psychologically, it causes you to be even endeared more to working with us and it deepened the relationship. There were a handful of times that happened where some of our best clients were referred to us by somebody where a mistake had gotten made, but we corrected
Right.
it quickly and owned it. And so I say all that just to point out that A, I'm not perfect. My wife will verify that.
Mm-hmm.
But a friend of mine once told me, he said, Derrick, remember this, that people like imperfect people better.
Yes.
People like to work with
Flawsome,
people
actually.
who are
They call them
real.
flawsome.
Blossom. I love that. I
Beautiful word,
love
isn't
that.
it? Yeah.
Yes. Blossom. I mean, that they want to work with real people
Mm-hmm.
that are not trying to pretend to be something they're not, because
Yes.
ultimately the customer sees through that facade. And if you just say,
Pretentiousness. Yeah.
look, I made a mistake, but I love working with you, we're going to get this taken care of, no problem. And so I believe that that is one of the superpowers that the local business owner has right now if they choose to do it. I meet people, I'm surprised by this. It gives me good content to talk about on social media so I can rave about it. But if when somebody doesn't take responsibility for their mistake, for example, I had a recent attorney who I worked with a while back that told me he was raising his rates. He just suddenly surprised me with this rate increase. And I questioned, and I said, well, where did this come from? And he said, well, in the agreement that you signed about a year ago, we reserve the right to raise your fees at any time we want. Well, that may be true, but what I realized was it made me feel like I'd been taken advantage
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
because they didn't call me and say, hey, Derrick, we love working with you. We value your business. In the next 6 months, there's going to
Mm-hmm.
be a fee increase just to prepare you for it.
Right.
And we'll let you know ahead of time. No problem. I would have been happy to pay the fee,
Yes.
but now they're not my attorney anymore because it caused me to be suspicious about how they did their
Made it
business,
feel underhanded. Mm-hmm.
underhanded. And
Mm-hmm.
so all of these things right now are ways that as the small business owner, you can really help redirect, I believe, customer buying behavior. And irregardless of if Walmart or Amazon has a better price, they're going to shop with you because they trust you and they know you, and you can't put a price tag on that.
I'm going to draw an example of my son who has a restaurant. 3 days after he had snapped his Achilles and had an operation, I had gone over to look after him and I was going to be
Wow.
working at the restaurant. 3 days later, lockdown, right? COVID lockdown. And it
Mhm.
was like, well, what do I do now? I've got 33 staff. We don't know how long this is going to be. What do we do? And there he is, at the till on the phone with his leg up. And he says, okay, we're going to just do takeout. We're just going to do takeout and we're going to run it out to the cars and we're going to do this. We're going to do this. His leg up in a cast, right?
Wow.
And then what he did all the way along the line is that, you can open up 50%. No, you've got to close again. It was back and forth, back and forth. And it was very hard for them ever to plan because nobody knew what the rule was going to be next week. And many businesses, especially restaurants, went under because of that. But he managed to keep his staff up and go, look, guys,
Mhm.
we're weathering the storm here. Let's do it together. He had to let some people go, but he tried to keep his main staff alive. And then what he would do for like the Thanksgiving meals and the Easter meals where you couldn't come to him, he'd put package, here's the entire meal. All you have to do is go and heat it up. And that has actually become one of his big staples.
Wow.
With our
Yeah.
Thanksgiving coming up next week here in Canada, we have it early. He's already sold God knows how much out there where it is already booked and people just take the food, they put it in the oven, they don't have to think about it, don't have to line up at a restaurant or anything. He doesn't need to be open. All he's got is a certain amount of staff that dishes out the food. He's even when the heat was so high, we had heat last year where it was just so ridiculously high, it was over 55 degrees in the kitchen. And so he said, I'm sorry, folks, we have to close for a couple of days. This is putting our staff at risk. No bitching from his community at all. Thank you for thinking of your staff. Don't worry, we're there when you open again, right?
Wow. That's good.
He
Yeah.
got the community on side with him. A, because he thought of his staff. B, he thinks of his clients. He's trying to do his very best and, pivot and pivot. The 1% of people that gripe, they're going to gripe anyway.
Right.
But the 99% of the people are the regulars, go back there over and over again because they feel they're part of the family.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the key things to do in any business is make sure that your clientele, that you have a good relationship with them on whatever level, a relationship with them. Make them feel heard, seen, and appreciated.
That is such a great story. And it's one I think so many business owners can learn from. So many people I meet have a checklist and they follow their
Mm,
boxes and they think that that is what leads to business success.
yeah.
What that leads to is simply consistency of the product or service that you're creating. But ultimately, people want to work with people and buy and trade their hard-earned money with people they know, they like, and they trust. Funny story, I'm a suit and tie kind of guy. And when I would go to basketball games to see my kids play basketball, a lot of my clients were at the kids' schools. They would say to me, Derrick, it's so nice to see you in shorts. It's so nice to see you in a short sleeve shirt. And at first I thought it was kind of weird, but what it was they wanted to know that I was real and normal, that I wasn't
Like one
always
of
just
them.
uptight. Yeah,
Yeah,
one of
yeah.
them. But that Derrick wasn't just worrying about our money all
Right.
the time. He took
Hmm.
some time to pull back a little bit. And I
The
thought it was the
balance.
opposite. I thought I needed to play this certain role.
Mm.
And I think, as you talk about that, business owners right now, I think there's a couple of unique opportunities. And one is to involve your team. I
Yeah.
had another couple come in the office recently and they had a problem. They were like, Derrick, our sales are down and we don't know how to drum up more business. And they had to say the team of about 4 people that work there, and only one person was in sales. There was only one designated salesperson. I said, what if you did this? What if you enrolled all of your team as salespeople? And they were intrigued by that. And I said, the way to do that is, what if you gave them an incentive that every new customer they brought into the business, you give them a bonus between 10 to 25%. And that was their incentive and it motivated them. Well, they
Hmm.
said, well, Derrick, that makes sense because if somebody comes in that's new, we're keeping 75% of the profit. They get 25. It was a win-win. And so
Right.
when business owners think win-win and not,
Yes.
well, I want to keep it all to myself. The other thing we talked about was I said, who are the people who know you, like you, trust you the best? Is it people you try to attract on your Facebook ads or your
Mm.
billboard? Or is it your existing customers? And they said, well, it's our existing customers. I said, well, let's involve them as part of your sales
Yes.
team and let them know, look, when you refer a new customer, a coworker, a
Hmm.
friend, a
Hmm.
family member, we're going to give you 25% off your next order, and we'll
Yes.
enter you into a special drawing for some a great gift basket.
Right.
Well, suddenly now their clients, who they thought because they were so affluent wouldn't care about this,
Right.
I've seen people who are worth well over $1 million who will cut in line to try to win the $25 gift card at the local restaurant. You know what
It's
I'm saying?
competitiveness.
It's
Right.
competitiveness.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
want to play to that. And so what they did is when the conversation ended, the way we solved this problem was they involved their team, they got their customers involved, and it was all about giving them something that was important to them. I
Yeah.
mean, ultimately, all of our favorite radio station is always WIIFM. What's in it for me?
Hmm.
And if you can play music that resounds with that station, people will bend over backwards to help you. And the fact that, like you said, with your son situation, they know, man, we know that this business, it's hard to be in a small business these days, and they know the struggles and the
Hmm.
frustrations. But if you can enroll them in it, I believe there's going to be business owners that actually come out of this economic crisis even stronger than how they went into it. But it's not just enough to have a positive mental attitude. That's a good start and that's a good
Yeah.
foundation. But I want to give people some tactics and strategies. And I talk about this in my book, Good Money Revolution, in terms of what can they do right now to drive the bottom line.
Yeah.
Because we know that if they can get customers in the door right now, whatever happens, it helps realign who they choose to do business with. I mean, for example,
Yeah.
I'm going to pick on Applebee's for a second. It's a restaurant locally in town. We just don't eat at Applebee's. Like if we have our family together, we talk about where do you want to go eat. Applebee's just doesn't hit the list.
Hmm.
There are some restaurants that just never make that. So Applebee's would have to work harder to get me as a customer. But once they did, if I liked it, I
Yes.
would probably then go back and it would adjust the list of restaurants I choose from. So
Hmm.
it's important for business owners just to put themselves out there and be a choice location for people to want to do business, not just because of the great product or service, but intangibles. Are they friendly? Do they call you
Yes.
by name when you walk in?
Yes.
Do they make you feel important and valued? And is there a vibe? Like when you walk in the Apple store, you can feel the electricity here in the States, all the cool electronics, the employees are all on board. It's like a place you want to go. There's some coffee shops like that, but you've probably been in businesses you walk in, it's like, oh my gosh, am I at a wake? Is there
I
a
know.
funeral going on at this business? What's
Yes.
happening here? And so
Or
you know
there's,
these places.
like taking coffee shops. I've known people who've owned coffee shops that actually hate people.
Right,
And I go, what
right.
the hell are you doing? But I'm just going to throw another thing that my son did out there. He decided for an entire week that his staff would get the whole profit for the week.
Oh, wow.
And he put
Wow.
out to his, all his clientele, come in and support us. Whether it's a takeout, whether you buy a gift certificate, or whether you come and eat with us, the more you spend this week, more profit the staff make.
Wow.
And people were so on board with that because the entire profit for that whole week was going to be divvied out amongst all the staff. And you're
Yes.
inviting your clientele to be a part of the appreciation.
Yes.
And people want to be a part of the appreciation.
Mhm.
People want to say thank you. They just don't always know how. Give them the
Right.
opportunity to show appreciation.
And you know, it's interesting you say that because I think people appreciate bosses who are appreciating their team.
Yes,
And one thing we
yes.
found is, I mean, if you're like me, like I never used to tip at the register. I would always tip when I was sitting down and a waiter or
Mm,
waitress came to my table. Well, now I'm just in this habit of because I was doing this during COVID and I was giving extra, that has just continued on. And
mm,
so I want people to not think that because there's an economic recession looming, and we may be in the middle of it right now, that people automatically will stop spending.
right.
We know that money flows where value goes.
Yes.
And if people feel valued, and this is bigger, Sarah, than just I want to get value for my dollar.
Yeah.
They assume that's going to happen. They assume that the quality of the cup of coffee is going to be good or the great food at your son's restaurant is going to be exemplary. They assume that. But when they feel like they as people and them as personhood
Mm,
are valued and important and felt to be made like, boy, this guy made me feel like I was the one person in his universe, that's where you get long-term revenue because so many people right now think about, I just think of this customer, how can I extract as much money from them? And I'll tell you a quick story. One of my clients owned a car dealership here in town, and he would tell me the story that so many of his competitors would always try to make as much money, eke out every single dollar on each car.
yeah.
And what
Upsell,
happened was
upsell, upsell. Yes.
upsell,
Yeah.
upsell, upsell. And what happened was people knew what was happening and they got upset about it
Mm,
and they did the deal once, but then they went to other dealerships after that
yes.
because the experience was so bad. What this gentleman wisely realized was that he was not just selling a car to the son or the daughter if this was their first car. He was going to be selling a future car to the mom and the
Yes.
dad, and a second
Yes.
car to the son and the daughter, and the grandma and the grandpa, and the aunt and the uncle. And so he would leave a little bit on the table where they still made a fair profit, but the client and the customer felt like they weren't taken advantage of. And he
Right.
told me, he said, Derrick, you're not going to believe this, but the average customer here has bought, he gave me this weird analogy, but it was 4.2 cars per person,
Hmm.
which was almost unheard of,
Yeah.
meaning that he
They
could
always
take
come back to
people's
him.
almost entire lifetime
Yes.
of automobiles because he might have left an extra 250 or $500 on the table, but that multiplied to probably five or $10,000 in profit for the life of that person. So I just want
Well,
to encourage business owners now to think not just how can I really get the most money out of this one-time transaction,
right.
but not to view this as revenue, but to view it as a relationship.
Yeah. Seeding. But what your big word here is you building trust.
Yes.
Right now, if you can go in and see me as a client, work with me within my financial parameters. Why are you trying to upsell me when you know I'm barely making ends meet to actually get the bottom line here,
Hmm.
right? If you're just looking at me as just a dollar sign, I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard, I don't feel appreciated, I'm going somewhere else.
Yes.
Now, if you If I see that you've bent backwards and you really do see me, you don't make me feel embarrassed because this is all I can afford. You're really bending backwards to make sure that I can drive off that lot with a car and really feel that, oh, I shouldn't have spent that much, or I really love this car and I'm going to recommend this guy because he really treated me on my terms, not on his. That type of advertising cannot be bought.
Right.
Referrals cannot be bought. Referrals are given. If I'm ever looking for something, I put it out to my community. I'm looking for X, Y, and Z. Anybody got a referral? And I'll look at the referrals and I'll look at what the referrals were, because some is they really thought they got a good deal, but hey, baby, you paid too much,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And it is that referral of, oh, they gave me great service, or they really bent over backwards, or I really did trust this person with what they're doing. Who are you going to do business with? That person that treated that person with respect, because that is how we want to be treated as a consumer.
Yeah, I think that is such wise words. And one thing that I would do to add to that, and this is a big differentiating factor. I talk about this in my book, Good Money Revolution, that there's this concept of what I call the generosity purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll tell you a quick story about a gentleman named Dave who was a longtime client. You know those relationships you've got where you can just tell the weight of the world is on somebody's shoulder
Yeah.
without them even saying anything?
Mm-hmm.
That's what Dave had all over his body when he came into my office. I could just tell something was wrong. And after a few pleasantries, I said, Dave, tell me what's wrong. Well, he began to tell me that over the past couple months, he'd been wrestling with not wanting to be in his business anymore.
Yes.
This was a successful business. His family worked as part of it, respected in his community, but he wasn't all in. He wasn't deriving joy from what he was doing. And it really bothered him. And the words just sort of shot out of my mouth. And I said, Dave, is there a cause that you care deeply about? And I could tell the question caught him by surprise. And he began to tell me a story about a couple years earlier, he and his family went on a vacation overseas. And in this particular village that the guide took them to, the guide pointed out that the lack of a school building was holding back this entire community, not just the kids, but the adults as well. And he said, if there was a dedicated school building, this place is so poor, that could revolutionize this entire region. And he remembered exchanging a glance with his wife as if to say, wouldn't it be cool
Mm-hmm.
to fund that school? Well, my question brought that all back. And I said, Dave, what if you did this? What if over the next 6 months, you set an aggressive sales goal to increase your business by 20%, and you took half of that increase and used that to fund that school? Well, he got a big grin on his face,
Yeah.
and we began to talk about what would that look like. And some
Purpose.
of the strategies, purpose, we combined
Yes.
profits with purpose and
Yes.
cause with a cash and meaning to his money. And he went back and told his customer base, hey, our generosity purpose, as I describe it in my book, is going to be we're going to take a portion of all of our profits and use it to fund this school. And on his website, he wrote about it and put a picture of what the school might look like. And his customers really bought into this. And keep in
Mm-hmm.
mind, he had a commoditized product. He was doing consulting, some engineering work. People could buy from him what they could buy from really anybody
Yeah.
else. But what made him different was this cause and how he made his customers feel. But also, what happened was his team got re-engaged because they were no
Mm.
longer just working for
For a
Dave
salary.
in a
Yeah.
9 to 5 business.
Mm.
Now they were working to help make this school a reality. But most importantly, Dave himself got completely reinvigorated. So now he had a purpose as to why he was going to work
Mm-hmm.
to add more value to people's lives, make more money, and do more good. And so he comes back in the office not 6 months later, but 3 months early. He looks younger, he looks motivated, he looks like he's all back. And I said, Dave, it's night and day. What happened? And he said, well, I had nothing to lose. I took what you said, reached out to my customer base, they got excited about it. He had already funded half of that school.
Mm-hmm.
And so the principle was that so many people think about giving is that if I give
Yes.
money, I lose so that you can win. You know, I give, the nonprofit gets it, and there's no incentives that are here. But
There's
my
no
model,
attachment.
that's right,
Yeah.
my model is I want you to have a cause that you're really passionate about that
Mm-hmm.
drives you, a wrong you want to right, and a justice in the world, just something that you want to do to see change. It could be in your local community. and then let that fire you to go make more money, but not the old way of, I just want to be a millionaire. I want to make as
Yeah.
much money as I can. I want to be ultra wealthy, which there's nothing wrong with that. It just leads to emptiness
Yes, I can
that
guarantee
you will
that.
expect down the road. And imagine this, having more money and feeling more meaning, because when you lay your head on the pillow at night, you have made your customers' lives better and you've helped alleviate pain in the world. That when they talk about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the
Mhm.
top of the pyramid, that's how you can live in that space every day because you're going to work to make more money and doing more good. I believe it's going to be the new trend of how business owners make more money, but also differentiate themselves in a very crowded marketplace.
I 1,000,000% agree with you. And having interviewed, I don't know how many business people who bought into, you're only something if
Right.
you have made this amount of money, if you've got this label, if you have this house, this, that, and they work their soul, heart, spirit off to get there, to find out, but I've lost my wife, I've lost my children, I've
Mhm.
lost my friends, I've
Yeah.
lost my
Yeah.
health, and I'm utterly bloody miserable. All
Yeah.
right. And because they bought into an illusion, a societal expectation of what happiness is. And they lose it all, or they just sold it all, and they went back to, but where is the enrichment? And they found out it was within them. The true
Mm.
enrichment of your intent, the true abundance of your heart's intent, of what difference do you want to make in the world with your business, with the extended purpose of your business. What that is really where the profit lies. When you can put people, planet before profit, profit will always support the people and the planet. But when you put profit first at the expense of people and planet, everyone is going to be bankrupt.
Yes. Yes. Well said. Well said. And, it's interesting because what most business schools today and most courses and most gurus on business will tell you is you need to take it to them, charge the highest price, tell your team where to go, you're in charge, you're the
Mm-hmm.
boss. And that may sell views and likes on YouTube clips,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately it doesn't lead to lasting, meaningful customer interactions where people that want to buy from you because they know you, like you, trust you. And we've all been in jobs where it's not a fit with who we are as a
Yeah.
person. You look yourself in the mirror and you realize, oh, I don't really like this product. This makes me feel icky. Or when you're part of something, you know that someone is taking advantage of you.
Yeah.
I just think that that is not right.
No.
And I know so many business owners, I don't believe that they actually know they're doing it. They've been taught a
Yes.
faulty model that they've bought into, thinking that is the way to grow your small business, but it's not.
No.
I believe that generosity, adding value, and finding ways to motivate your team, not just to stay, but to feel like they're an entrepreneur inside of your
Yes.
existing
Yes.
business is where the magic. I was on
Their
TV
family. Their
recently. Okay.
family.
Yeah, I was on TV recently and talking about this whole concept of quiet quitting, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you've heard of. And
Yes.
basically,
Yes.
it's this concept that's been around for a long time. It used to be, I don't like my job. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to fly under the radar, get in at 8, leave at 5, and then go on about my life. Now people are talking about, look, I'm just going to talk and say, look, I don't want to do any extra. If
Mm-hmm.
you fire me, then fire me,
Yep.
but I'm just going to fill a seat. And what I believe is every time there is a cultural phenomenon,
Mm-hmm.
there's a new opportunity
Yes.
for people who don't buy into culture to excel.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I know some college students that are choosing right now not to go down the well-worn path of just go to college, which there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
They're choosing to go on their own, to go to YouTube University, to plug into real estate, to plug into business, and actually learn from people who are in the field they want to go in right now.
Apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship. And here's
Yes.
what I tell them. Listen, is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be as easy as they make it look?
Mm-mm.
No. Heck no. But by betting on yourself, being additionally disciplined, and really doing the things you need to do, you could achieve wealth in a fraction of the time that many college graduates do if you're focused and you focus on adding value to the customer. So many people that take a job at a company, they're sort of buried in this bureaucracy where they really don't have to be kind or congenial to clients.
Mm,
They just have to worry about their boss and maybe their subordinates. I think right now, people who learn the soft skills, how to listen
yes.
to people with their eyes and not just their ears. When there's a problem, can you communicate that you feel worse about this than they do? When the customer says, Sarah, my gosh, you feel worse about this than I do.
Yeah.
It's okay. And they're sort of consoling you.
Yes.
And if they're a problem, that's the win. And when we talk about charging what you're worth, I don't think people have to charge below their value. I want, when you go to a specialist, for example, if you were to have a medical procedure done on your
Hmm.
shoulder or a heart issue, would you go to the general practitioner who knows a little bit about a lot of things, or would you go to the specialist that all they did was shoulders and hearts every single day? And that's the question for people is, as a business owner, you want to position yourself as a specialist in whatever field you're in, because people know, boy, the specialist knows what they're doing. I expect to pay more for the specialist. Again, it's another angle here to
Yeah.
further differentiate yourself in a crowded marketplace. If you're that attorney, CPA, realtor, coffee shop owner, dentist, doctor, I mean, literally, it's like Googling the word the, and you
Hmm.
see billions of
Yes.
ideas pop up. How do you pick one?
Right.
Ultimately, one person in those fields emerges, and I want it to be your listeners because they put these principles into practice.
Right. I'm going to talk about generalists. Generalists. It's okay if you're a generalist. A little about a lot of things, but make sure that the people that you are referring to, the specialists, have a referral program.
Yes.
Right? It's okay. You're a generalist. I'm pretty well a generalist. I call myself the concierge. You come and listen to a podcast, and that is, I've directed you to that podcast for your problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This person can resolve your problem or can ignite something inside of you that you're looking for. This is what I provide. So I'm a generalist because I have many different genres, many different type of people that I interview. The fundamentals of it is igniting your heart, soul, and spirit into a leading a meaningful, purposeful life,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I love
So
that.
referrals, if you're going to align with certain people and you're going to promote them, make sure that that appreciation works both ways, that there is a referral fee there, right? Because you are the concierge knows everybody everywhere. Do you think the concierge is just working on their salary? No, they've got various,
Right.
from the various restaurants or the theaters or the this or the that. So respect the person who is the generalist because they will point you to the proper specialist. They know who they are, right? So everybody has a role to play. And I think one of the biggest things is alluding yourself to having to chase a role because somebody else expected it of you, i.e. parents or society, your culture, but really, it's not your role. You maybe don't even know what you want to do. This is what apprenticeship is. Oh, you know what? I realized after a year, I don't really like real estate, but my God, what I've learned, I can now take it to something that I've discovered is my
Yes.
passion.
Yes.
Be willing to redirect. Just because you're on one path doesn't mean you have to stay on that path. If that path does not serve your future, you take everything you've learned from it and redirect it into a path that really your heart and soul is into. Because if your heart isn't in it, you're not going to give it your all. If your soul isn't in it, you're not going to be part of your purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, I met a business owner about 5 years ago, and the story I'll never forget because I asked him, I said, why are you in this business? And he said, well, he said it was because it was my dad's business and it was his dad's business. And so I was assumed to be the next
Mm-hmm.
person to own this business.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, well, do you enjoy this business? And he said, if I can be honest with you, no. And my heart broke because here
Yes.
was a person on the outside who looked successful.
Mm-hmm.
They looked the part of the
Mm-hmm.
successful business owner, the one everybody would want to be like. But inside, this person was crumbling.
Yes.
And what I began to think about was early on, he probably had a conversation with his parents at some point, and the conversation probably sounded like, what if I didn't join the family business? What would that look like? And as opposed to having an open mind with their
Mm-hmm.
son about what other options are there, mom or dad probably said, well, there is no other option. In our family, this is the business
Obligation.
that we're
Mm,
into.
mm,
And so they felt obligated.
yeah.
And I think right now, and it's not a sense of direct retaliation on their kids
Hmm.
or intentionally leading them astray. I believe that many parents right now, because they were told, get a good job,
Yeah.
get a good pension,
Yes.
save for retirement,
Gold
get the
watch.
home, and that defines in my land here the American dream, if you will. And when people do that, they realize this is it.
Yeah.
Isn't there more than this? And
This is what
I
I'm getting
want
up to every day.
right, right. So I've got four kids. My oldest daughter went to Baylor University, has her degree now, has launched her own company. My other daughter is a senior in college, and she wants to start her own business. My son bucked the trend and realized, Dad, I don't want to go to college and have all this debt. I'm going to go right into real estate. So he looks up in where he lives a couple real estate meetings, and he goes and sits on the front row, dressed up, ready to go, attentive, taking notes. He gets two job offers that night
Hmm.
of mentors who want him to work in their business. And so it's teaching him now how to flip houses, how to build houses, how to rent houses, all the practical stuff that they don't teach in a textbook at all.
No,
And I've
no.
told him, is it the harder
Foundational
path?
stuff. Yeah.
Yes. But can he achieve success quicker? Yes. And my other son is weighing now trade school versus college, all those pieces.
Yes.
And what I'm learning as a parent is just because it was good from my
Right.
viewpoint and my paradigm, don't automatically
Yes.
push that on our own kids. What I want to do is be a potential extractor. I want to extract every ounce of potential out of my kids for their dreams and not live my dreams through
Through them.
theirs. That
And
leads to broken
oh,
relationships, and that is not good for any
shattered
family.
lives, shattered
Shattered
lives,
lives.
completely. It's also don't expect them to decide straight away.
Yeah.
My youngest daughter actually went back to university at the age of 27 because she'd
Wow.
finally found out really what she wanted to do. You know, now she's a social worker working with people with brain damage, and she really loves what she's doing and she's really good at
Wow.
it.
Mhm.
Could she have done that at 20 or 21? She's always been a giving and nurturing and learning person, but no, she was in discovery, in her own self-discovery. My son, you know, he went and did courses, successful wings on business and this, that, and he went into the flipping the houses, doing this and doing that, and then decided, okay, I'm going to go. We owned restaurants when he was younger, so yes, he followed that trend, but on his own terms, right? Because we no longer had them.
Right.
So each one of them decided to find their own path. I think it's okay for our kids to go and do some self-discovery of who they are, why they are, what do they really want out of life. And then they may decide, okay, you know what, this is my career. This is really where I want to go. And it's never too late
Right.
in life.
Right.
Never too late. I don't care if you're a kid still looking for your life or you're a person at 40, 50, 60, 70. I started this at 57, 10 and a half years ago,
Yeah.
right? And I had no idea when I started podcasting that it was going to lead into the career, the passion, the love of what I do every single day. And it's because sometimes we simply have to allow ourselves to have an experience. And from that experience, we decide to make it into a business.
Hmm. See, what you said there should really be replayed over and over again because I think that there is an intense amount of pressure. You know, my son's a senior in high school right now, my youngest, and I hear parents talking about you've got to pick your major
Yeah.
before you go to college. And before your senior year, you got to know what you want to do when you go to college. And I mean, my own path, I squeezed 4 years into six. I was working my way through college. I got out, took the first job I could get, didn't like it after a year and a half, went back to school, got my financial planning certifications, launched my own business. 25 years later, I'm launching another business. And if I had stuck with one thing, I would have not achieved any level of fulfillment. I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
So I'm in my first job out of college, and there were many times that our paychecks got bounced. I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned the story earlier where I wrote a check to my church for my tithing. I had to call my church and say, hey, sorry, I just wrote a hot check to the church because my boss bounced our paychecks. I got passed over for a raise, as did a few other people. And there was a moment in my life where it was a light bulb moment where my dad was somebody I always respected, but he would always get to the cusp of taking a risk and launching something of his own, but he always pulled back. He never could take that next step. And I recognized, my gosh, I'm at that point where my dad had to be. I was about 25 years old, and he chose the path of just staying in a job and waiting on someone else to tell him what his value was
Yes.
by that yearly raise. Well, I just couldn't do that. I had to bet on myself and say, you know what?
Mhm.
I've got enough confidence in myself. Even if I stumble and fall, I can get back up again. So that's when I launched my business, and I've never looked back. And what
Mhm.
I learned so many lessons from how not to run a small business
Yes.
by the first job I had. It has helped me become a better small business owner. So there's also a misnomer out there that says you can only learn from the best leaders out there.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
I've learned so much from some of the worst leaders, and I'm
Yes.
actually thankful for the experience
Yes.
of, wow, this is a gift.
Hmm.
I don't want to be the test case for someone to say, boy, when I work with Derrick, just do everything opposite of him. I want to be the model where people say, boy, if you can work like Derrick does, and in this
Yeah.
case, work like how Sarah does, I mean, that's the goal. And so I just think so many parents are doing their kids a big disservice by trying to lock
Yeah.
them in right now that you've got to know what you're going to do, and by golly, you're going to stick with it. And if not, because we paid for part of your college, we're going to be disappointed in you.
I know.
And I just want to
You
give
will be a
people,
failure.
yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
this, we're
Hmm.
just investing. If
Yes.
you can change your perspective, and in my book, I talk about this concept called the people portfolio. And that is, we all think about our investments and stocks and bonds
Hmm.
and mutual funds, real estate, but think about the people in your
Yes.
lives
Yes.
as investments. And they may be
Yes.
people, it could be your son, daughter, aunt, uncle. And think about, look, when I may put money to an investment, and I can't guarantee if it's going to do well or not, but if you invest in someone, even if it doesn't go well, they will always, always know that you bet on them.
Hmm.
And that's part of their fabric for the rest of their lives. They know that, boy, Derrick, Sarah, Tom, Susan, whoever it was, they believed in me enough to put their money to my name.
Yeah.
And that can fuel them to achieve some of the greatness they've got. I mean, that's the power that each of you as listeners have right now to go make more money, to do more good, to make an impact in people's lives. And that's real because that model gets passed on to generation and generation, and you're part of something bigger that they will always remember.
It's back to that meaningful purpose again. You're seeding opportunities, you're seeding
Yeah.
possibilities. What do we want at our deathbed? Oh, I'm
Right.
a trillionaire, but I'm actually poor inside.
Yes.
I'm so abundantly enriched and
Hmm.
abundant in my life for all the things that I have seeded, all those possibilities, all those lives that have changed, just because I gave them a moment of my time, or
Right.
because I invested in them, or because I got behind them in some way. That again kind of investment, this is where I think business went so utterly wrong, and why we ended up with what I call the ivory towers. The
Oh, yeah.
CEO is up in the ivory tower, not knowing all the different layers of the people below them and the foundation. And if you don't take care of that foundation, it's going to crumble and you're going to tumble.
Right.
The people that
I
take
like
care of
that.
the
Yeah.
foundation are taking care of every level all the way up. And it isn't a question of height, it's a question of broad width, the arms
Right.
around the world. When you can make everybody feel that they're in your arms, I've got you, we're in this together. This is our company. I'll take on the burden as the CEO, but we're in this together. I rely on you, you rely on me. Let's do it together. The loyalty, the self-respect, the respect for the company, the literally the aura that goes out to everybody that they work with
Hmm.
and work for, and the clientele they have. When somebody is happy in a workforce, when they are proud to be there, and you want to be a part of that because
Right.
the entire aura around these people is so vibrant that you want to be a part of it. So
Hmm.
invest in the people that work with you, work for you, and the clientele that support you. And if you're not looking at that, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, that is so good. And, it reminds me of a story. So many people these days want to make extra money.
Hmm.
And the term side hustle gets floated around so
Yep.
much, and side gig, and so many people want to overcomplicate their financial lives. They say to me, Derek, I need to go back and get my computer science degree, or I need to go back to college. And I just ask people right now to say, and this works, by the way, if you own a small business, how can you reinvent yourself in the midst of a financial crisis? And ask yourself, what are the most common problems that we get asked to solve? If you're an individual, and whether it's your coworkers, friends, family, are they asking you to book a trip, to design their website, proofread a paper, organize an event? If you're in a small business, are they asking you with the existing product and service you have is, can you do this a different way? Can you help use this differently? And basically, that's the way that your focus group, as I call it, is telling you, here's a way to make more money with the talent and gifts that you have right now. So for example, an individual listing could say, boy, people are asking me to schedule their trips or organize things for them. I can now charge people for that. And we're hearing people that are making $500, $1,000 extra a month by now charging for what their friends and family and colleagues have told them for years you're good at. But
Yes.
business owners really struggle with this because they think they have to launch this entirely new
Hmm.
line. But ask your team, ask the people in the room that are directly connected to your customers and clients, and ask them, what ways are people using our products and services right now?
Mm.
Ask them, what are the blind spots that you see with our products and services right
Yes.
now? What worries do you have? Because those are the people who are on the front line. And if business owners, as you talk about the ivory tower, if they're way
Hmm.
up here
Yeah.
and they're not focused way down here,
Yep.
the smaller, more nimble local business will run you out of business.
Yes. Back to customer service again,
Yes.
right? Going that extra yard. We don't have to go the extra mile, folks, right? Sometimes an
Right.
inch or a yard, it's just that little extra difference, don't worry, you don't need to come and pick it up. I'll drop it off on my way home. Little acts of consideration are banking a great deal of profit for you in the future,
Yes.
right? And I think if you're looking to get rich quick, and go and do your cyber money and take a chance on that, right? Go and do
Right.
stocks, right? Because that's up and down, and you may get rich and you may not. And I think, quite honestly, I call it, remember the flash that we used to get on the sites all the time? It was so annoying, and I found it was so evasive,
Yeah.
and it felt so unreal. We've still got people that are still living like that. Flash, 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 six figures in this time and this, that, etc. And we're just like, la 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 la, heard it, not interested. I want to know, can you look me in the eye and hear me what I need?
Yeah. I
So,
love it. I love it, Sarah. Yeah.
you want to make money, you can make money, even in a recession. It's been proven over and over and over again. It is learn to pivot as to what is the need of your clientele. How do you have to pivot your company into providing what they need today? Don't, I had a friend that was with an MLM, and she kept trying to sell me fake nails. I had
Ah,
3 children. You've got to be kidding. What did I need fake nails for?
right. Right.
Found out later that they had incredible nutritionals, which I did end up using, that literally saved me at that time because it was very run
Wow. Okay.
down. Had she actually listened to what I needed at that time, as instead of imposing me what she thought I needed, we would have been further ahead of the game. So I think most important thing to do in anything with your clientele is make them feel at home, make them feel that you're listening to them, that you actually hear them, and build a relationship with them. Whether it's a moment over buying a cup of coffee, or talking about life insurance, or talking about their financial profile, make them feel they are the most important person in that moment. That
Mm,
is the key to it. Pivot, pivot, pivot. The other thing is, if you're doing it for the wrong reason, I guarantee you will always fail. If you're
right.
doing it because your heart is in it, and that sole meaningful purpose, because you want to make a difference, I guarantee you will always succeed.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Quick story as we wrap up. I when I was in college, I was elected student body president. It was just a goal that I had, and it was such an honor. And at the time, our wheelchair basketball team won the national championship. And it was very unique. We were the top wheelchair basketball team in the country. And the tradition was if you won a sport in the NCAA, you would typically get invited to the White House
Mm.
to meet the president. So people on campus got a hold of this idea, they ran with it, and before we knew it, they were going to fly to the White House. So as the student body president, I had this idea that, you know what, I need to make a compelling case that I need to go with them to represent the students,
Right.
right? And so the university president liked the idea. So here I am, and I'm in front of Bill Clinton,
Mhm.
president at the time. And candidly, I wasn't the hugest Bill Clinton fan, but in the presence of the president,
Yes.
all of that, it's like a vacuum,
Yeah.
goes right out the window. And he looks me in the eye, Sarah, shakes my hand, makes me feel like I'm the one person in his universe
Mm.
in that moment. And I had
Yes.
heard about his charisma and how he
Yeah.
made people feel special. And I witnessed it in that moment. And it's something I think about almost on a weekly basis that how can I help people feel better? You know, Maya Angelou often talks about how people will forget what you did for them,
Yes.
but they'll never forget
How
how you made them
you
feel.
and look what he did for you. He seeded in that moment by
Yeah,
making you feel you were the only person in that room at that moment. He seeded that importance of making people feel special.
right,
We
right.
all want, we don't need the diamonds, we don't need this, we don't need the billboards, we don't need the 5,000 followers, we don't
Right,
need
right.
all of that. We just want to know that the person looking at us right now sees us, hears us, values us,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And that is one of the greatest gifts you can give anyone. The other important thing I'm going to say before we close on, you are your business. You can wear different hats for different roles in your
Hmm.
business, but don't be this business person and then somebody bumps into you into a restaurant and you're a totally different personality,
Right, right,
right?
right.
You must always be who you are, wherever you are, because that is the honesty. And people right now, I'm sure you feel this. People have had fake news out of the yin yang.
Hmm.
They
Hmm.
want to know people are authentic, that they're real, that they love what they're doing, and they really do care. They're
Yes,
tired of the old salesman, right? Just
that's
don't
right.
sell to me. Don't sell to me. Talk to me and let us do a transaction of what we both need,
Hmm.
right? It's changed the thinking around completely.
You and I are in lockstep. I love it.
But I've done a lot of shows on business, and one I did was Let's Get Synced, which was actually the climate change of how we do business,
Mm,
of how we look at the environment for climate change. And it was mostly done with people European and the Far East, etc. And it was such a delight to see how many people are working with organizations, governments on people, planet for profit. When you
right.
treat the people with respect, that respect comes back tenfold. And when you treat your staff with respect, they're there for you tenfold.
Yes, yes.
And the
That's right.
same with government over everybody. And it's just that way of thinking is now really expanding out. Hallelujah.
Yes, yes.
Hallelujah.
You're right. You're right.
And they can learn all about how to do this and how important money is and how to look at money and what they can do with it in your book. How do they get your book and how do they find you?
Yes, Sarah. So actually, the new book has become a national bestseller, which is fantastic. And I want to get this message into as many people's hands as possible. We're giving away the first 5 chapters of the book for free. So people can get it. It adds immediate value. They can go to goodmoneychapters.com, goodmoneychapters.com, download the first 5 for free. You like the book, you can go to Amazon or wherever you buy your favorite books, but goodmoneychapters.com gets you the first 5 for free. And then also you can follow us on Instagram at Derrick T. Kinney, where daily we update videos and content on how to make more money, save more money, and do more good.
Excellent. Also, you have a podcast called
Yes, it's
Good
called
Money.
Good Money Podcast. That's right. We interview, if you know, it's very similar to the vibe of you and I talking, just two passionate people talking about money. How do we help you in your business? And really, ultimately, how can you live the life you've always wanted and make the impact you always knew was possible, but never knew how to get there?
Right.
Those are the things that we uncover every single week.
There's one thing I'd like to add to that is that, as with absolutely everything in life, if you get anxious and worried and like, what am I going to do? How am I going to meet the next paving or this or that? Everything about your life crunches up. Everything. The oxygen
Yes.
can't flow, the energy can't flow, the clarity can't flow. And it's like anytime you meet something in your business where you feel is a challenge, please take the time to take the breath. The deep breath, do whatever you need to do for you in that moment to put yourself centered, not in the hurricane,
Right.
because that's so easy. When you get into that hurricane, you're going to make all the wrong decisions. But to center yourself, to be calm, because when you're in calmness, therefore you can see the clarity, right? In any business, in any aspect of your life, in actual fact. Also, if they want to just go to your site, it's Good Money Framework.
Yeah, goodmoneyframework.com. Yep.
And of course, they can find everything there as well. You give 5 chapters away free. No skin off your nose to read those chapters, folks. And then, I'm always saying books are one of the greatest gifts you can give people. If you know somebody that's looking at wanting to start their business, wanting to look at, what does it all entail? This is a great book to give because it just sets people on the right mindset in order to do whatever they need to do in life. Whether, even if you're looking at changing a job, right? Changing your career, know about the money. Thank you so much for sharing with us here today, Derrick.
My pleasure, Sarah. It's been a real joy. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. So folks, remember, you can have a great relationship with money. Money can have a great relationship with you. It's all about that mindset, and Good Money Revolution can help you get there. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Find all of our shows on selfdiscoverymedia.com under podcasts or selfdiscoverymedia/shows. And for all our current shows, go to What's New. We are supported by you, the audience. You'll see a nice big shiny blue button for one-time donations, or follow us on Patreon and you will be able to support us there. We enjoy bringing you such wisdom. And the next show will be up in just a moment.